Thank you. I'm very happy to be here and for the opportunity to tell something about such an interesting and important subject. On our first conference in Belgrade last autumn, my paper was about concentration camps in Serbia as a source of forced labor in Serbia, because part of prisoners from concentration camps in Serbia, mostly from camps in Belgrade. There were two large camps on Sajmište, as Nikola mentioned, and Banjica camp, or Anhaltelager Dedinje. Those two camps were the main source of the forced labor for Serbia itself, mainly in Bor and Trepča mines. And my today's paper is about Sajmište as a source of concentration camps. Sajmište, or Anhaltelager Zemlin, as a source of forced labor abroad, mostly in Norway, but in the other countries, of course, concentration camps in Germany and camps for free labor, so-called free labor. And let me read my paper. Yeah. The insurgents defeated Serbia in November, December 1941. Yeah. What? Okay. The insurgents defeat in Serbia in November, December 1941 occurred side by side with changes in the German policy in recruiting forced labor. It was caused by growing hunger for labor, which became critical after the failure of the Blitzkrieg in the East in late 1941, and huge human losses in the war against the Soviet Union. This led to a partial change in repressive measures against the insurgents and the population in insurgents area of German occupation part in Serbia, but also it influenced the situation in the independent state of Croatia, Bosnia and Herzegovina, same region. By the end of March 1942, the highest representatives of German army and the police in Serbia and in the southeast defined a new policy of recruiting forced labor from the ranks of insurgents captured in Serbia and other areas where military operations took place. It was decided that insurgents would be sent to work in Norway. That is a document marked as Employment Venture Viking, or Arbeitseinsatz Viking. At the time, the division of responsibilities between the military and police factors was also made. The units of the Wehrmacht shot those captured in battles during military operations against insurgents. But all other insurgents and suspected of helping them were gathered and handed over to the police and the concentration camps in Serbia that were managed by Gestapo. Meanwhile, the high SS and police leader in Serbia, August Meissner, and the Rice Commissioner for Norway, Joseph Terboven, agreed that 4,200 prisoners would be sent to Norway from Serbia as forced labor. The existing German camps in Serbia, in Šabac, Belgrade, Banjica, as I mentioned, or Anhaltelager Dedinje, and Niš, Anhaltelager Niš, were already full of prisoners from Serbia, while the biggest of them, the Belgrade Fairground, you can see the pre-war site of this camp, or well-known Sajmište, served as a concentration camp for Jews, or Judenlager Zemlin. By May the 10th, 1942, all of the Jewish prisoners were killed in the gas van sent by SHA from Berlin to Belgrade. At the same time, transfers of prisoners provided for labor in Norway started arriving in the Saimište camp. In that way, the policy of the recruitment of forced labor and space requirements for the internment of a large number of new prisoners affected the Holocaust in Serbia because it accelerated the killing of Jewish prisoners. In May 1942, under the new name, just a moment, detention camp Zemun, or Anhaltelager Zemun, the Belgrade ground camp, got the central place in the German camp system in Serbia for gathering and deportation of detainees for forced labor in Norway and to the other countries, including Serbia too. Similar role was dedicated to the Anhaltelager Dedinje. As the number of prisoners that were to be sent to concentration camps in Norway was still far from the necessary, the German commanders have turned to a much richer source, concentration camps of the Ustaša independent state of Croatia. German representatives in the ISC were well aware of the actions in the Ustaša camps, but only in the spring of 1942 they showed their interest in the prisoners due to their own need for labor. In the second half of April 1942, SS General Meissner and the leader of all police forces in Croatia, Eugen Kvaternik, signed an agreement according to which German occupation authorities took over politically undesirable elements from the independent state of Croatia in order to send them to forced labor in Norway. When considering the issue of internment of prisoners in Norway from Ustaša state, one should take into account the role of Jasenovac camp in the repressive policy of the ISE. The mechanism of mass death was so well established that on April 27, 1942, from the headquarters of the Croatian leader Ante Pavelic, an order was sent to all police and military commanders which said that, quotation, the concentration and working camp at Jasenovac can receive an unlimited number of detainees, end of quotation. It is therefore ordered that all so-called communists caught during cleaning certain areas should be sent to Jasenovac camp. Soon after the arrival of the first transfer from Jasenovac camp to the Belgrade Fairground camp, SS General Meissner found that those were mainly were mainly 16-year-old boys, old and sick men, whom the Croatian authorities wanted to get rid of. He immediately warned the government of ISC that for that reason further taking of the detainees was not an option. As the structure of the newcomers from the Jasenovac camp was not changed, at the end of May 1942, Meissner ordered the termination of the retrieval of the prisoners from the Ustaša concentration camp and their transfer to Norway. New large groups of captured insurgents, which were provided for internment in Norway, started to arrive in the Belgrade Fairground camp since the second half of July 1942. In western Bosnia, in the areas of Mountain Kauzara, superior German and Croatian military forces inflicted a heavy defeat to partisan forces by the end of July 1942. German commanders counted on the prisoners from the military operation to be sent to Norway. In addition to the captured partisans, Serbs, Muslims, and Croats, there were mostly Serbian men from the areas of military operations whose families largely sent to Jasenovac concentration camps and mostly murdered. This is another. Those pictures are from Croatian propaganda film about the victim, their victory over partisans on Kozara mountain, and so the name of the film was Guard on Drina River. New large groups, despite the large influx of prisoners, the Meissner decision to seize prisoners in the camp was still on. So at the Belgrade Fairgrounds camp, there were around 10,000 prisoners concentrated. The biggest problem was feeding the prisoners, which were the responsibility of the Croatian government, but they dragged the task fulfillment. Later minimal deliveries were not nearly enough to even remotely feed thousands of starving, sick and exhausted prisoners. This led to high mortality of prisoners, which reached proportions of mass plague. The problem of a large number of prisoners, German commanders solved in three ways. Physically, the strongest were sent to the newly established camp of Organization TOT. The group, you will see the pictures, the group of the oldest and those of the worst health was isolated in a special pavilion where they died or were killed, while others, unable to work, about 3,000 of them, were sent back to Jasenovac's camp where they were immediately killed. Physically strongest prisoners were sent to detention camp of the Organization TOT. The official name was Organization TOT Zammerlager. The history of this camp was very long and very interesting, and this camp was at first established for Volksdeutsche from Romania, which were sent from after agreement between Ribbentrop and Molotov in June 1940 from Romania to Reich, and for them there was established this camp. And during the war, the history of this camp was at first it was Organization TOT camp, and after that it was during 1943. But I'll say something about this period later. You will see some pictures from this camp. Those were physically able to be sent to another camps, and you can see their status. Despite the slightly better conditions in this camp, the mass deaths of detainees continued. After change in the command of the camp in late September 1942, circumstances in it improved, which allowed transportation to Norway to be restored. The first transport of prisoners was sent on October 19, and the second one on January 1943. You can see the Dr. Selenic, Milorad Selenic. He was sent with them to Norway too, but he was prisoner, but not in the same conditions like the others. He was like medical support for the others in the camps in Norway. He survived, In early April 1943, a group of captured partisans and their supporters from Slavonia, Srem, Eastern Bosnia, and Croatia itself were sent from the camp of TOT organization in Osijek to Norway. It was also the last transport of prisoners from the territory of Yugoslavia was sent to Norway. Yeah, the largest number of prisoners from Serbia survived the internment in the Belgrade Fairground camp and was sent to Norway. 65 of them were sent, but the situation was quite different with detainees brought from Croatia. Based on the agreement of leaders of German police in Serbia and in Croatia, transporting of the prisoners from Jasenovac concentration camp to Belgrade Fairgrounds in order to send them to Norway began. It turned out, however, that the quality of the labor received was far from desirable. From a total more than 13,000 prisoners from ISC who were deported to Belgrade Fairground camps in order to be sent to Norway, only more than 17% of them were sent, while only 14 of them arrived in Norway. It can be concluded that the German policy of the recruitment of forced labor in Serbia and for concentration camps in Norway was both at the cost of massive loss of prisoners' lives. This policy crossed with the policy of the ISC, destroy military and political opponents, and above all, to fulfill the program of the destruction of the Serbian people. Although, for the detainees from Serbia, and primarily from ISC, deportation meant rescue from death. The conditions under which they were interned before deportation to Norway brought death to most of them. This primarily refers to detainees held in the IC, so only 1/7 of those sent to the camps in Norway reached them. In Norway, some big new challenges that have also swept away many lives were waiting for surviving prisoners. During the autumn of 1942, new groups of prisoners came from occupied Serbia and ISC. After the short captivity in Sajmište camp, they were sent to forced labor, Zwangsarbeit, in Germany or in occupied countries, including Serbia, mostly to Trepča mines on northern Kosovo. During November and December 1942, free transports were sent to concentration camp Mauthausen. Among them were not only partisans but members of royalist resistance too, and members of so-called legal Chetnik units. In those transports were prisoners from the other Belgrade concentration camp at Banjica, Lager Dedinje too. By the end of the year, one transport was sent to Greece, to camp near Thessaloniki. During the year 1943, new groups of prisoners were sent from insurgent areas in Serbia and Croatia to Sajmište camp, and then to the forced labor in Germany or in occupied countries, mostly to the camps Mauthausen and Auschwitz. Some of them were sent to the mines Bor and Trepča in Serbia. Sajmište camp was the main source for forced labor, especially for Trepča mines. Considerable part of prisoners were sent to Germany to the so-called free labor, Freiarbeitseinsatz. After capitulation of Italy in September 1943, a lot of Italian war prisoners were sent to Sajmište camp, and then to the new established prisoners of war camp, a former organization Tot camp. We mentioned, Nicola mentioned, and this camp, because this organization Tot camp became an POW camp under the name Durkanslager 172 Zemlji. Since the summer of 1943, the Sajmište camp became not only the German camp for the prisoners from the Yugoslav territory, but for the imprisoned Greeks and Albanians. provided to be sent to the German concentration camps as well. Due to the spring of the year 1944, Samizdat lost its previous significance. Due to the Allies' prevalence in the air, the outstanding geostrategic position, you saw this photo, of the camp appeared to be a great failure. On the 17th of April 1944, the Allies' bombardment of Belgrade and Zemlin caused large destruction and bloodshed. The camp also suffered great loss. In the course of the following weeks, the prisoners were hastily escorted to the other camps. May 17, 1944, the detention camp Zemun was assigned to the Croatian police administration. The influx of the new prisoners was gradually reduced, but they mostly deported to the German camps as before. One major group of Jews from Kosovo were sent to Bergen-Belsen camp. It was the last group of Jews which was sent from former Yugoslavia to Nazi camps. In the second part of July 1944, the camp was finally dismissed. Some statistics: according to the preserved historical sources, the detention camp Zemlin received the total of 42,000 prisoners, out of which the total of 10,636 lost their lives in the camp or were hanged or shot out of it. It means every third one, approximately 13 victims a day. These figures should be considered as approximately low level of the number of received and the number of died or killed prisoners. And that's all for the now, and thank you for your attention.